I'm going to show you the common or typical selection process. When I talk about a process, I'm talking about the general steps to use when trying to get the best selection possible, the natural looking selection. I've set up my Photoshop to have this farmer and this farm scene. And what I want to do is I want to select the farmer as best as I possibly can and move him into this scene so he looks natural. To select the farmer, the first step in the process of making good selections is making your first initial selection. It is your choice which tools to use, and as you get better and more experienced at Photoshop, those decisions will be easier and easier. In this particular situation, I have a white background, which is always a benefit to Photoshop. If I click with the magic wand tool on the white area, Photoshop has an easy task, an easy time of selecting all the white pixels. But if you wanted to, you could select, using the quick selection tool, the pixels that make up the farmer by clicking and dragging. And you should be pretty familiar with doing this. But notice it takes a little bit of time to do that. I'm going to make the choice to use the magic wand tool and click in the white area. And when I click in the white area, you'll notice that I've got all of the white pixels selected. All except the white pixels under the pitchfork and between his arm and side. I need to also select those. And then when I get all the white pixels selected, I'm going to inverse the selection. Now at this stage, I want to add to my selection. I could do that using other tools if other tools would benefit me. I could use the pen tool. I could go into the quick mask mode and paint. For example, I'll do that right now, even though that's probably not the best technique to use in this particular situation. I'm going to go into the quick mask mode, and there I am. I'm now in the quick mask mode, and you notice that the farmer is painted in pink, and currently he is masked, meaning what is showing are the white pixels. What is going to be hidden is the black pixels, or what is not going to be selected are the black pixels. So I'm going to zoom up here in between his arm, and I'm going to swap the colors here, grab the paintbrush, and double check, grab the paintbrush, and I'm going to double check my opacity. Notice my opacity is at 30%. That's not good. When we are in the quick mask mode, we're going to almost always want the opacity to be 100%. So again, I've got the white paintbrush selected. I'm going to dial down the size of the brush, and if I paint, you'll notice that I'm adding to, this is adding to the selection. Maybe that's a little hard for you to get, but this is adding to the selection. I also want you to notice that this is kind of challenging. It takes a little bit of time to do this, but once I'm done, and I'm going to not take the time to do that, get out of the quick mask mode, you'll notice that I've added to the selection. See how I've still got this other selection and I've added to the selection. I did that just to demonstrate to you that I could go in the quick mask mode, out of the quick mask mode. I could grab another tool and add to the selection and subtract from the selection. What I'm going to do to finish this up is do it the easy way, and that is go back and grab the magic wand tool, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and when I hold down the Shift key, notice the cursor has a little plus on it. That's adding to the selection. So I want to add white pixels to the white pixels I've already got selected. Holding down the Shift key, clicking, it goes out there and it grabs all of those white pixels. I'm going to pan down here to this area, do the same thing, hold down the Shift key, and I select all of those pixels. Now zooming back out here, you'll notice I have all of the white pixels selected. However, white pixels are not the pixels I want. Those are the pixels I don't want. I'm in exactly the opposite situation that I want to be in. All I have to do is from the select menu inverse, and now I have all of the pixels other than the white pixels are selected, and now I have my basic selection. I'm still working in the Farmer 1 image. I'm not ready to take it over into my new document yet. I still need to refine and do some details. So the next step in this process is to go into the select and mask mode. Now I'm in the select and mask mode. My view is going to be on black, and I'm going to just make it a little bit darker. And then I'm going to zoom in. Remember, we have to look at things at least 100%. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and I'm going to notice, I'm going to look around at my edges. I'm not concerned about the guy's hair right now. I'm only concerned about the edges, the sharper edges. I want to dial those in first. The reason I want to dial those in first, if I am trying to work with the hair and use the Refine Edge brush tool, then what ends up happening is as I make other adjustments here, like smoothing and feathering, that is going to have an effect on the hair. And I don't want it to have an effect on the hair. So the technique I use is to first dial in all the other edges, get out of the select and mask mode to solidify that selection, and then go back into the select and mask mode to do the hair. I'll demonstrate that. We're concerned right now with the edges. You'll notice there's a little bit of roughness there, and it's a little bit sharp in some other areas. You don't want really hard edges because it looks like you cut it out with a pair of scissors or something. One of the things you can do in here if you have seriously large mistakes is you have a couple tools that you're used to. You have this quick selection tool that'll work just like the quick selection tool in regular Photoshop. You also have a brush that you can paint with, the brush tool. That works like the quick mask mode. You can add or subtract to your selection by painting. So if I had a serious area of problem, I don't see anything real serious, but I'll just show you here. See this area right here where there is some cutout of that shirt area? Well, I grab the brush tool, and up here is the expand the selected area and restores original. I'm going to add to that, and notice as I paint, I'm painting that back in. Now the edge is pretty soft, so I'm going to undo that, right click, and I'm going to dial up the hardness some, and I'm going to dial down the spacing, hit the return key, and I'm just going to fix that by just painting. Now if I wanted to, I could take the time to paint all of the edges here, but I'm going to try to use let me undo that. I'm going to try to use other techniques here with this selection. So instead of now painting all the edges, I want to look at it at 100% or more. Here's 200%. I'm going to see what happens if I start doing some smoothing. And this is really rough here, so I'm going to come down here to the global refinements, and I'm going to dial the smooth up a bit, and you'll notice that gets rid of some of that. And then I'm going to add a little bit of feather. I usually don't add more than 1 pixel. Sometimes I add 2, but rarely. So I've done that, and you notice I look around and the edges start to smooth out a little bit. They're a little bit soft, but if you also notice, I've got a little bit of a white edge around all of this that I don't like. So I'm going to dial down, I'm scrolling down, and I'm going to dial down the shift edge. I'm going to dial that to the negative, and that brings the edge in a little bit, and you'll see that those highlights to some degree, a little bit more there. There you go. I've shifted that edge, and those highlights go away. So as you can see, I'm doing a lot of stuff to the edges to clean this up. And the reason why I'm doing that first is because I don't want to go and take all the time to get the hair and then do all of these refinements and see the hair selection change. So I'm not worried about the hair yet. Here I am. I've got this guy dialed in. Now next I want to output, in this case, to selection. You have in the past been outputting to a layer mask, but since I'm going to output to create that selection, to solidify that selection, and then I'm coming right back into the select and mask mode, I'm going to come right back into the select and mask mode. I'm just outputting to a selection. So I'll do that. There I am, output to a selection, and you'll notice that I have this guy pretty well selected, but not quite finished because I don't have his hair selected. But now I've established a new selection. From this new selection, I go back into the select and mask mode, and now I'm not going to change any of these dials because I've already dialed them in. As I zoom in, you can see my edges are still nice and stuff like that, but I still got this problem with the hair. This is where I'm going to go into the Refine Edge brush tool, grab that brush, and just simply paint the edges of the hair and let Photoshop do what it does and get those edges. And I'm coming down here and painting the edge of this hair and let Photoshop do what it likes to do, and that's refine those edges. Now you'll notice I didn't make any changes to the other edges, and I used this Refine Edge brush as my last step in this process. Now, if you don't have a situation where there's hair or fur and you don't need to use that tool, then it's not a double-step process. It's just into the select and mask mode, do your thing, and get out. Okay, there's one other thing I want to show you, a way to edit it a little bit later. So I'm going to make a mistake here, an obvious mistake here. I'm going to have this whole area in his eye. All right, there you go. And now I'm going to output to a layer mask. And now when I output to a layer mask, hit OK, you'll notice that that's a pretty obvious mistake. So normally you won't make such a mistake, but I'm doing this just to show you how to fix it later on. So at this stage now, I've got my selection and I want to get this guy into my document over here. To do that, I'm going to drag the entire layer, touch the tab. When it opens up, I'm going to drop it in the middle here, grab my move tool, move this guy, and let's say that's where I want him for now. And you'll notice I have this layer mask with the layer. I'm going to rename the layer Farmer. And this is where I am going to create a smart object. Before I create that smart object, let me go back here and say, once I have this all dialed in, this is the file I want to save as a working file in my artworking folder. This is the file with the layer mask. The reason I want to do this is so I never have to do the selection process again if I ever use this image again. So I would save this and put it away, come back here, turn my attention towards my composition. I've got this farmer layer. I'm going to right click, convert it to a smart object, and now it's a smart object. But I now see the problem with the eye. I say, whoops, I didn't see that. What can I do about it? Do I have to go back into the original? Well, you might if it's a serious problem, but if it's just a small problem, you don't. If I double click on this smart object, it opens up that smart object in a separate file. You'll notice it says farmer.psb, and then it gives me access to the layer mask. I can paint on the layer mask. Don't forget, you can paint on the layer mask with black or white. So I target the layer mask by clicking on the layer mask. See the white corners now? That means I've targeted the layer mask. I grab a paintbrush tool, painting with black and white, making sure my opacity is 100. And what do I want to do here? Do I want to paint with black or do I want to paint with white? Black hides or black conceals, white reveals. So I want to reveal. So I'm going to switch these. My paintbrush is now set to white. And as I paint on the layer mask. I'm actually painting on the layer mask, and I'm revealing those pixels that accidentally got hidden on my select and mask process. So there you go. I've got my farmer all dialed in. I need to save this. Command S, close it, come back to my farmer composition, and you can see that that particular smart object, the layer mask, was edited and applied. So there you have it. This is the typical process. You might use different tools. It might take a little bit longer, might take not so long. Whatever, the process is pretty well defined for you. Work with it, practice it, you're going to get really good.